Okay, guys, thanks for clicking on the video. Welcome to another Maneuver Life radio podcast, whatever. I'm Dean. This is my buddy
I'm
Tony.
Tony.
And if this is the first time watching, we like to have our little conversations. I mean, me and Tony talk on a pretty regular basis, and we talk about life. We talk about the philosophy of being a man in today's world, and we're going to have a nice conversation today. We had four topics that we went over today. So the first one, we had a pretty long conversation about what really what locking in really looks like. Right, well, locking in is the word of the day with the New Year's here, and we want to sort of explore the nuances. What does it mean to start locking in? What does it mean to be locked in? How do you become more locked in after you've started? So we have a long conversation. We mostly focus on weight loss because that's just something we both have a lot of experience with. But the conversation veers into other things like finances, stuff like that. So if you're curious, if you really haven't gotten started and you have sort of a what we call analysis paralysis, and you feel like you got to be perfect, we have a lot of ways to overcome that type of fear and that type of anxiety and really get into it. Then we had three user questions. So we actually mined Reddit for some pretty good questions today. The first one we had uh, remind me again, what was the
The
first
first
one?
one was the gentleman who claimed that his wife said he was addicted to video games. The girlfriend.
That's right. That's right. So we had a guy he's a young guy playing video games, and his girlfriend decided to pick a fight about that. So how does he manage that situation? Then we had a situation where a young man broke up with his girlfriend, and she lost her virginity in the meantime, despite claiming that she was going to wait for marriage. And he's wondering if he should take her back. And the third one we had a really good conversation about, so stick around for that one. Basically, a gentleman with a long-term girlfriend that he's deeply in love with, but is starting to get out of shape, starting to get fat. And he's wondering how to address that because he doesn't want to make her feel bad or sad, and he doesn't want to end the relationship over that. So how does he manage that type of situation? So we had really good conversation about that one, really good conversation about all these topics today, and please stick around for all of them. And I hope you enjoy the episode.
Alrighty.
Okay, so I think what I've been thinking about lately is this idea of what exactly does it mean to lock in, right? Like everywhere you go, especially now, it's the beginning of the year, people are making their resolutions. And well, it's really just the topic of the day, even beyond that. The men of our generation are, at least the ones who are engaged in any way, are trying to figure out how to navigate this world that really does not value masculinity, doesn't care about it, doesn't want you to be a man. How do you do it anyway, right? Because I mean, the question could be asked, why should you? But maybe that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're watching this, you're probably engaged. You probably care about this thing, and you want to know what to do. And it's not obvious, in my view. I mean, there are certain things that are obvious, like you should obviously got to work, you got to take care of people around you, stuff like that. But what exactly does that look like? And especially, okay, here's the thing about me. I'm a single guy, right? I know I do have a daughter, but I'm not. She doesn't live with me, so I have a lot of free time. I have a lot of freedom, a lot of different paths I can choose. And if I want my ultimate goal, which is to actually get married and have a family that lives with me that I'm raising, um, what does that? How do I get on the path towards that? And what does it really look like? What does
Right.
it really look like, and what does it feel like when you're actually chasing your goals on a
Right.
regular basis? So I think that's the topic I want to talk about today.
No, and we could definitely get farther into that because, as you said, it is a kind of a time. I've been noticing a lot of these sort of lock in type, get after it type, motivational, like if you want to call it that, videos or posts and stuff by a lot of people that are trying to lock in and stuff. And I think I'm excited to see 6 months from now, 3 months from now, kind of see where they are, and not in a cynical like, oh, I can't wait to see these people stop locking in. No, I want to see them locked in, and I want to see what the
Right.
results are. Like, and it's anywhere. I mean, I hear a lot of people saying, "Hey, Christmas credit card bill just came out, and I've got to I really lock in my finances," and they're starting just now or whatever. But you really have to see I mean, that's a good thing to see, right? You got to see people getting after it. And I'm gonna kick this over to you because I've got a theory about this in general, but it's about how finance locking in is kind of a lot related to fitness locking in. Little sharing a
Mhm.
little themes, reducing something and increasing something at the same time, and we'll get into that. But I do want to see in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from now, with these people that are locking in on certain things, where their progress is, what do their behaviors look like compared to before, and like what they feel like they can do in a year from then compared to today. So it's kind of
Right.
it's a big motivational hive mind, and I like that. So what do you think about kind of the
Right.
fitness as the fitness fit finance synergy, if you will, like the analogs there? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that you're 100% right about that. So I have currently, I'd say my main focus is getting my health in order, right? Like I've been somebody who's been overweight my entire adult life. And that's mostly because I just simply didn't care about anything until literally I'm not exaggerating, and you know this. I didn't care about anything until like 3 years ago, right? Like literally nothing at all mattered to me in my life. I mean, I had a long-term girlfriend, but frankly, I wasn't even taking that seriously, which is crazy to say because we were living together. But I didn't take that seriously. I didn't take anything in my life seriously. And 3 years ago, I had my epiphany, and I'll talk about that some other time. But I got to this point where I realized, hey, it is valuable to try, which is hopefully most of you who are watching this have not lived with through that, but maybe you have, and maybe you're at the point now where you understand that you need to try. You need to try at everything that you do. And so the first thing that I knew I needed to tackle is my health. My weight was out of control. At one point, I was like 350 pounds. I've lost like 80 pounds, but I have a lot more to go. And it's a struggle for me because I am a type of person who sees. Well, I have a very hard time divorcing the result
Right.
from the actions, right? So, let's say weight loss is a slow thing, right? It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time to get that big, and it's going to take a lot of time to get myself lean again into somewhere I'm happy. So, I struggle with that because I'll stand on the scale, and let's say I've gone up a pound since the day before, right? Maybe I ate a little bit too much, or in the worst case, sometimes I don't feel like I ate too much. Sometimes I feel like actually I did meet my goal, and yet somehow maybe I'm just retaining some water or whatever the case is. The number actually goes up on the scale, and that is very very disheartening for me. And I think, like I said, I struggle with this idea that the change itself doesn't really happen. It's more about the changing,
Right.
which is an active thing that you never stop doing. And you were saying like connecting the finances and the fitness thing together.
Right.
They're absolutely connected, right? Because one of the main reasons that I was so fat is because I was going out to eat all the damn time, right? And just not really caring what I put in my body. And now when I've turned food into something more purposeful, I am much more conscious of not only what I'm eating, but of course what I'm like where I'm sourcing the food. So I'm going to the store and I'm seeing the prices of these things, right? I'm just like once I started caring about one aspect of it, I'm now caring about a different aspect of it.
Yeah. Let me cut
And
you
it
off for a
all
second here and ask you the kind of a question to kind of interject what you're saying. A little bit you said before you're on a journey from 350 to kind of lean muscular, and I like that you didn't say a specific number. You just said I'm on a journey to get lean. That's what you said, and I think that's a mindset diff on a lot of people. Because 350, by the way, that's 80 pounds big progress. Like that's something you should be proud of, and something that you should be happy that you've done that work already. Because now you can just replicate sort of the same principles to get down to lean muscular. And you already know this, but for the viewer, going from 350 to 300, that's 50 pounds. That's let's make the numbers easier. Going from 350 to 315, that's 10%. So that's a big deal, but it's only 10%. Going from 250 to 220, or 250 to 230, whatever, 235, whatever. You see my point. It's you're
yeah.
losing diminishing returns. If you've ever played any video games, you know what diminishing returns are. But it's basically this concept of the easy stuff comes first, and then the hard part is kind of at the end. And to harken back to what you said, if you have these habits to get that first 50 pounds off, like I like how I'm saying first 50 pounds. Most people are probably looking to lose 30 to 40 pounds, or even less. But
Right.
you're an outlier,
Right.
and so let's use your example though, because you've lived it. If you're going to lose that first 50 pounds, you have these habits. Something needs to change in your life. You mentioned you went to eat out a lot and stuff. I bet you didn't even go
Right.
into like an Applebee's or like a whatever, a Chili's, whatever, and think how much protein is in this bite, and how much of that protein. Let alone you didn't think that, but you also definitely didn't think this. How much of that protein comes from all the amino acid profiles? Like, is it really protein? Am I going to count it? Like all these things, am I going to consider this really carbs? Like As you you're getting to the
Yeah.
nuance, but the simplicity of it is, like you said, change your habits, and that is lever both sides of the equation, right? Calories in, calories out.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why I said finance. But to harken back and I guess flip it back to you with a question, um, would you say that you sort of turned food into something that's more of a purposeful thing, or could you speak on that, or was it
Yeah.
something? Or did you go from because back in the day when you're 350, were you just eating to eat, and now would you say it's more of a purposeful thing, or what do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would put it. It's a cliche to say, if anybody who's ever tried to lose weight and has looked for resources and guidance on that, you're going to hear this phrase that you need to view food as your fuel, right? And that is a very big change because as somebody who has struggled with weight, anybody who has ever had that problem will know it is an addiction, right? And it's an addiction that comes with many problems. But the worst one, in my view, is that it's one that everybody can see on you, right? Like if you're addicted to cigarettes, literally no one will know that until they see you smoking a cigarette outside, right? If you're addicted to freaking meth, right? Nobody's going to know that until you're stealing their catalytic converter, right, to fund their habit. Like so, like you can hide from every addiction in this world except for food. Food will show on you, and people hate you for it, right? Because everybody's screwed up in some way. Everybody's got their own problems. Everybody's got their own addictions. And when you see somebody else's problems, people project their problems, their anger at themselves onto you because it's just so visual. And that's a tangent anyway, but I just want to mention
I
that
like that.
because
That's
it's part of the
interesting.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you turn, so it's an addiction, right? And so I look at food, and even to this day, I still struggle with this. I look at food as a source of pleasure, as a source of entertainment,
Yeah.
right? Like I literally look forward to eating my next meal. Like I'll wake up in the morning and I think, ooh, what can I get? Like what can I get on DoorDash? I'm gonna order some Chick-fil-A burritos, 700 freaking calories each. I'm gonna order two of those, and I'm gonna sit on my computer and watch YouTube. And it's like fun. Like I look forward to that.
There's a
That's
lot of
my
dopamine in
dopamine
that,
hit,
dude. Don't
right?
get me wrong. That's a lot of dopamine.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's something
So
to having that
like,
delivered too. You don't have to do anything. It's a low
yeah,
effort,
exactly.
low
Yeah.
high slop factor. Like it's definitely.
I feel like a king,
Oh yeah.
like bring me my breakfast, and it comes on
King
this, and
me.
it's one, yeah, exactly. So when you switching that relationship from something as like I'm looking forward to eating towards I'm going to eat specifically to boost my performance in the gym or to maximize my results from the gym, right?
Right.
It's just like you were saying with the levers. Like I can go to the gym and do an hour of cardio and I feel great. And maybe I've burned 500 calories or whatever. And I feel great and I get all the endorphins and everything. But then I could come home and eat a Big Mac and undo it all in like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And
Or
so
less.
what you do is so the challenge for me is to change looking at food as a source of pleasure and entertainment towards a source of purpose. Like, actually, I don't want to eat Big Macs anymore because that's going to ruin the progress that I've made. So what can I do instead? What's a more purposeful decision here? Okay, I know that I've done all this cardio. I'm burning through my glycogen stores, and I don't want to build those back up because I want those as low as possible so that when I go to the gym, I'm burning fat. I don't want to be burning carbs. I want to burn fat because that's what I'm trying to get rid of. So the point is to look at the
Right.
macronutrients in those foods that I'm eating and
Right.
think, let me minimize the amount of carbs. Let me try and minimize the amount of fat, although that's not as important. But let me minimize everything except, let's say, this protein, which is going to go towards building up my muscles. It's going to sit in my stomach a lot longer. It's going to be more difficult for my body to digest that. And so I'm going to burn more of the fat stores that I already have on me. And so it's a really utilitarian switch from enjoyment to purpose.
No,
Like
and I
why am
like
I
the
eating
distinction
this?
there. I like that distinction there
Yeah,
because if you as you said earlier, if you don't view it as a purpose, you're just putting whatever's in your pantry in your mouth because of any X, Y, and Z reason. As you pointed out, hey, maybe it's somebody's birthday, and you say, hey, like, what is the most exciting, most dopaminergic cake we can get, right? Like it's going to be something that's pink because she likes pink, whatever. And then you're just going to pile it
yep,
in. But if you're thinking about, like you just said, how am I going to optimize my performance? Or, new thing I've been thinking about that's really fun, what is the lowest amount I can eat to feel the hungriest the longest, right? And that's
yep,
always going to be take the number of calories, divide by 5. You know what I'm saying? Like get that disgusting number, or
Yeah.
shave off the third digit and double it. Get that sick number. You know what I'm saying? Like the 300 calorie,
Yeah.
60 protein bomb that you're looking at. Was like this almost looks lab created in some way because it's got
Yeah.
some weird 0 calorie
Yeah.
sauce on it, but it works out.
Yeah.
It's a freak meal.
Yeah.
But when you say purposeful,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think back to because you're mentioning like the long diet, the long transition, and I think it you just mentioned you just summed it up basically. When you're trying to lose weight, I mean, a lot of the times it doesn't the actual work that you need to put in is, you know, let's say every meal is 5 to 10 minutes of eating and preparing it because it's not really that long. Maybe let's say 20, and you're probably eating 3 meals a day, so that's about an hour, right? An hour of preparing and eating food. And then in the gym, I mean, you're doing your if you're doing your 30 minutes of cardio, like, and you're checking your box to say I did something, fine. But if you're, let's say you're a freak and you're doing 45 average, so 7.5 minutes to get to the gym, 7.5 minutes to get back, 45 minutes of cardio. So 2 hours per day is actually like doing things to get on track to lose the weight. The rest of it is just allowing the time to sink in so that you can recover for the next day and the next day. And I don't think you're going to wake up one day after starting and think, oh, I'm so excited about this new habit change and this new diet and this new exercise plan I'm on. You know, no, you're going to be miserable and hungry, right? For the first day, first week, first
Right.
month. But after 6 months of having 1 or 2 cheat days and like really locking in, that's the word of the day, is getting locked in. You're going to look back and say, okay, I don't even care what the number on the scale is as much as is next week's groceries all accounted for, because now I'm already on to other things and it's just part of your life. You know
Right.
what I mean? So if you could speak on that a little
Right.
bit, insofar as when you started out, were you thinking with this mindset as opposed to now? Because I know now you've been really dialing in like the metagame on how can I make this food last as hungry as possible, you know, diminish the most
Yeah.
hunger. So if you could kind of speak on that, what would you say to that?
Yeah. So it's what you said at the beginning was really good, with when you said that you start off, uh, the first 10% or whatever is very easy. Actually, it's very, very easy. In fact, I don't really think I started taking my food seriously until like I had already lost like 50 pounds. Literally, I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm sick of this. And I started going to the gym and I started doing like at least 30 minutes. Back then, 30 minutes of on the elliptical was extremely difficult. Like, like very, very hard for me to do 30 minutes on the elliptical. But I just went every single day and I did it. And eventually, I'm in the gym and they have all this weightlifting stuff. So I was like, hey, let me go pick up some heavy weights and put them back down, and do that a few times. And that's literally all I was doing. And there was no real program to it. There was no logic behind it, other than I know that if I move more, it's going to be better for me. That was all. That's literally all it was. And that was very effective because I was just so big, right? So just doing anything at all put me on the track to start losing weight. But then as I got smaller and smaller, I realized, like, I'm not really optimizing this. I'm not really taking it seriously, really. Like, I'm doing it, but I'm not thinking about it that much. So as the type of person that I am, I started to think like, well, what else is there? So then that's when I started doing research. I started looking into it more. Like, well, what is it that causes people to lose weight? Is it true that I should become a vegan or something? Like, should I start eating salads all the time? Should I go get some nuts? Is it good to snack on stuff during the day? I don't know. Like, what should I do? So I started looking into it more, and then I found out that really the only thing that matters when it comes to weight is your calories. I mean, that's pure and simple. It's actually the most simple thing in the whole world. It's you eat less. Yeah, you eat less than you're burning on a daily basis, and your weight goes down. So that was like the first step of like, okay, let me pay attention to the number of calories in the food
Right,
that I'm eating.
right,
And I found out that even at that point, I was still eating too much. It's just that I was so big that I was still losing weight.
right,
But I started to realize, okay, I got to start paying attention to the calories that are in here. And then I started getting more into weightlifting. I'm starting to lift more, and I was like, okay, I want to build some muscles. And then I find out that the more muscle you have on your body, you're actually burning even more calories. So it's like, okay, that's actually even better. Like, if I can incorporate more weightlifting. Well, how do I maximize my gains in the gym? How do I maximize the amount of muscle I'm building? Turns out the protein is extremely important for that. So not only do I want to lower my calories, which I'm already doing, but I want to find a way to maximize protein. And that's when you get into trying to eat a lot of meat, trying to eat a lot of egg whites, trying to eat a lot of, I don't know, just high protein foods. And then I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to be eating all this protein, I really got to be careful with these carbs, because the carbs are just your calories. They're just going to boost the calorie number up, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really give you anything else.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, okay, I go to Chick-fil-A instead of getting the full sandwich. Maybe I get it wrapped in lettuce.
Right.
Maybe instead of the breaded fried sandwich, I get the one that's grilled.
And
And
that's
all of
freak
these little
tier, right?
things.
It turns into
That's
freak
that's
tier.
that that's where you start getting into freak tier. And now, like today, yesterday, in fact, I sent you the picture. I'm making meals that are like half a carton of egg whites and like a little bit of baby spinach and like low fat mozzarella cheese. And I'm getting on a meal that's got like 270 calories, but like 40 grams of protein, right? Which, if you know anything about macronutrients and stats, that's insane. That's a great meal. That's a really
Yeah.
good meal.
That's
And I felt full, and I know that I've got a ton of protein for this, and I'm full for the rest of the day. And so yeah, you go through these steps, right? You get
right.
closer and closer to this ideal.
Right, and what works for you is not going to be what works for Dean, right? Like what works for Dean, it maybe be a good fundamental for you. Like yeah, obviously, but what specifically works for him, and we'll get into. He hasn't said anything too specific, so that's why I'm saying this. But if he says something like, "Hey, I can eat all my calories like right before I go to sleep, and that's the best time for me to eat all of them," so I'll fast all day and then I'll eat like one meal at the end of the day. Sometimes people do that, and it works for them. But just because that works for them doesn't mean that you have the same problems that they have. So oftentimes people will say, "Hey, I need to like really dial in like okay I'm doing this intermittent fasting thing because I cheat on my diet in the morning." Okay, but other guys maybe say, "Hey, I'm at night, I'm staying up watching YouTube and I wander over to the pantry and then sure enough, hey, that's a handful of M&Ms. Where'd that go?" So everything just kind of
Yep.
is different, but everything that's the same though for everybody is that this time component is the only thing in their losing weight journey that they don't have any control over. So it's like it's required but not controlled. So it's kind of what we
Right.
went to earlier. You can control that 1 hour a day of like if dieting or eating. You can control that 1 hour and change if you're lifting of going to the gym. The rest of the hours like you can't control, you can't do anything in those hours to really like drive the weight loss except abstaining. You have to abstain from eating certain things you don't want to eat and stuff, and like etc. Obviously, you get into
Right.
like I gotta sleep well and I gotta do all this for recovery purposes, but just the main building blocks, you're gonna have to wait, and it sounds like you're waiting, but you're in the middle of doing it. So it's not really like you're waiting, but a lot of people think of it. Oh, I can't wait till 2 months from now when I'm, 2 or 3, 4, 5 pounds lighter, or I can't wait till a year from
Right.
now when I have
Right.
like 20 grand of cash like saved up for like that big purchase I want to make. No, it's like it's you really got to change your mindset to think of in a year from now the behaviors that I have formed for what I'm trying to accomplish will allow me to do some freakish thing 2, 3, 4 years from that. So it's kind of like
Right.
a different mindset change, and I think you mentioned that earlier. So I like what you said about time being kind of the part of the equation that you don't have any control over, but it's required. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So the time is going to be there regardless. So like you said, you have no control over that. So that's simply in the equation, regardless of what you're doing. Time is going to keep moving forward, regardless of what you're doing. The only thing you have control over is right now. So make the decision right now, and then that's all you got to do. Like it's actually much more simple because people, you have these long-term goals. I have this thing. I want to weigh this amount. I want to have this much money. Well, time is a part of that equation. Whatever you're saying you want, there's going to have to be time in between them and now, and
right,
there's simply nothing you can do about that.
right.
But what you do have control over are your actions today. So that's what locking in means, right?
Well, I
Locking
mean,
in doesn't mean that you're
I was gonna say, do you have any?
locking in doesn't.
Yeah,
You go
good.
ahead. There you go.
Do you have any family members
No,
or,
no, you.
or friends that say, "Hey, I'm locked. I want to be locked in, but like I don't have. I'm just so tired, or I'm so X, Y, and Z, and I don't think I can commit to that whole locking in and stuff. And like I want to lose this much weight, but I don't want to
Right.
commit to, you know what I mean? And you ever think, hey, dude, like
Yep.
just go to the gym right now. Like put your phone down and go to the gym right now. Just leave it in the car.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Just
Right.
go right now. Because when you come back, it's going to be, it's a 30-minute, maybe it could be a 30 to 40 minute thing for you, right? But when you
Yeah.
come back, you're gonna then have this whole okay. I actually did start this whole thing, so now I don't need to say I'm too tired to do this because it's only a half hour to 45 minutes of work. And then the hard part is, as you said, the hard part is waiting at the time.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I've heard that from many, many people. Basically, I would say the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people you talk to about this are going to have a mindset just like that. Oh, I would do it, but I got this going on. I got this. I'm tired. Blah blah blah.
I don't have the equipment.
It's excuses. right? They're making excuses for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that that happens is because it feels super overwhelming. Like if you think of your goal, like what you want, I want to own a house, I want to weigh this much more, I want to have a girlfriend, I want to have a wife, I want to have kids. If you think of those goals, that's super overwhelming, especially when you're starting from nothing,
Right.
right? So that like you're adding on all this pressure of like, yeah, I want to go get this done, but I just know I'm not even ready for all that. I'm not even ready to be
Yep.
like that yet. I'm not ready to have that kind of money. Like that adds the anxiety. It adds the pressure that doesn't need to be there because time is going to take care of that for you, right? Like you don't have to do it all at once, and you're not going to. It's actually impossible, so you don't have to worry about that.
No.
It's actually very simple. When you simplify it to what is the action I could take at this exact moment? What's just one step? That's all you got to take is just one step. Literally, it's the
Yep.
simplest thing in the entire world. Actually, just do the one thing you got to do. Time is going to take care of all the rest,
Yeah,
right?
it's not
Very
like you're
simple.
gonna go, hey, Coach Dean or Coach Tony, whatever. You're not gonna say, hey, I'm gonna lose 12 pounds. What do I do? I'm not gonna say, go to the gym right now, move the treadmill into the sauna, grab a salad, and eat it while walking backwards on the fucking treadmill in the sauna.
Right.
No, you don't need to combine all that stuff. Like that sounds fun. I'll try that for like a video or something. But that's
Right.
not
Yeah.
something that you. That's not a
Yeah, and
prescription.
make sure you have your E-Trade monitor over here so you
Oh
can
yeah,
start trade. Get the
get your day trading
yeah
in, get your reps in on the day
yeah.
trades. Like make sure you have a podcast in one ear about
Start
some
swiping on
spirituality.
Tinder with your left hand.
Like get
Yeah.
something going on. Yeah, get something going on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No, the,
Yeah.
the reality of it is you're gonna start with something simple, like go to the gym or not even go to the gym. A lot of people that I know, I just say, hey, go outside, go for a 10-minute walk 3 times a day. Every time you put food in your mouth,
Right.
put it down. Don't even do the dishes. Just go outside for a 10-minute walk. I know that sounds like
Yep.
you got dishes and you're worried about. Don't worry about that. Just do your 10-minute walk every time you eat, and that's 30 minutes a day right there. So that's a little hack I tell people, and it really also helps kind of that feeling of digesting the food. Like it makes it kind of feel better too when you go for that little walk like right after you eat.
Yeah.
A lot of people have this problem where they
Yep.
eat and they just sit on the couch and they just scroll TikTok forever because they get into food
Yeah.
coma. So I always tell them,
Especially if you're loading up on carbs. Yeah,
yes,
you get tired, you get sleepy. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
But one thing you
By the way,
said earlier
there's
is
a
that go ahead. One thing you said earlier is when you jumped into the process of this whole thing, the first 50 pounds, you didn't even have a plan. You just went to the gym every day, right? That you started basic.
yeah.
And I'm wondering like if this mindset, if you can relate to this at all, because I'm thinking like during that time you mentioned, or a little bit after you mentioned, some people get overwhelmed and what have you. Do you think there's something to the fact that there's too much information going on in people's heads where they have to be too optimal? And so they think, okay, I can't start this thing because I'm overwhelmed because I want to do it perfectly, instead of
Yep.
just starting it like you did and figuring it out on the way.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, that was like part of what I was driving at with my monologue a little bit ago. Is like I didn't like today. I'm pretty good at you know analyzing the food that I'm going to eat and getting the right amount of nutrients that I want and creating a meal that's edible, right? Which is another challenge. Like I'm pretty good at that, but it didn't happen just like you said, it didn't happen overnight. Like it's something I had to build up towards. The most important thing is that I took one easy step and then I simplified it. And I don't know, I couldn't tell you why I did that because I've never been that kind of person. I've always been that kind of person who gets paralyzed by that chase for perfection, right?
Yeah.
Analysis paralysis is the phrase, right? Like like you said, everybody you want it. You hear all this talk going on. There's so many experts available on the internet. People have been doing it their entire lives, bodybuilders, whatever the case, and they have so much information and they're optimizing things to such a high degree. And you see them and you're inspired by them, and that's great. You want to be like them, but you can't do that without the time. Imagine the amount of time that they've put in to get where they are. You're not going to accomplish that overnight. The only thing you have control over is just starting, just getting it underway, and you will eventually on your own. You won't, even if you didn't have anybody else helping you, as long as you're really paying attention and you're making good decisions and trying to think about what you're doing, you'll figure it out on your own before long. All this extra information can be useful to you, can be very beneficial, but you need to make sure you're contextualizing it to yourself. By the
Right.
way, before we leave this topic, there's a Bible verse I want to share with you because it's one of my favorites. It's Matthew 6:34, and Jesus is talking to his followers, and he says, "Be not therefore solicitous of tomorrow, because tomorrow is solicitous of itself. Sufficient to the day is the evil thereof." What he's telling us in that verse is you don't need to worry about tomorrow's problems. Tomorrow's problems are worried about themselves, and they're going to come whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You need to deal with the problems you have right now.
Yep.
And that's all you need to worry about ever. That's all you ever need to worry about is what does today look like? Period.
No, and that
And
makes
once you
sense.
get that, once you have that mindset, everything is unlocked for you.
Yeah,
Everything.
and the thing about the thing about the thing about like thinking about tomorrow's issues and getting overwhelmed by them is, well, one way to solve that is, like you said, focus on what's hitting you right now. And if that's just go to the gym or go for a walk, start there. You don't need to optimize the first 50 pounds in your case. That's the easy way, as you said. But it's going to start you on that process of changing your habits. And I think I always think of this example, like when somebody asks me, "Oh, I don't know exactly how to do. I don't have the right equipment for the gym. I don't have the right mindset. I don't have the right program. Like, how do I do all this? I don't know exactly if I should use the elliptical or the bike or all this." And they have all these questions, and I'm just thinking, okay, listen.
Yep.
When I don't knowing why when I flip on the light switch, the light turns on, doesn't change the fact that every time I flip the switch, the light turns on. You see what I'm saying with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't
Yep.
need to
Yep.
overanalyze everything. It's still everything's going to work regardless of if you know it. So knowing that,
Yeah.
like you in your case, knowing that this certain amino acid profile protein is better for weight loss and muscle gain than the vegan kind of edamame style kind of get after it vegan gain style. Knowing that why that's
Yeah.
the case doesn't change that it is the case. So it's not going to change that you know that and you start eating. If you're going to eat chicken the entire time, suddenly when you know it works doesn't mean it's going to all of a sudden work better. So you don't need to
Right.
emulate. Just emulate things that work. You don't need to emulate these crazy professionals. Just they've as he said they've been working on this for 10 years and they're on that last pound forever. They've lost and gained that
Right.
last pound on repeat. So we're talking about
Yeah.
basic. Just
Yeah.
get started. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people get
Yeah.
wrapped up in trying to figure out why the light switch works, but it's just gonna work regardless of if they know it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. You will get started when you get started and you start to see the progress from even just the most simple of actions, cutting down on one meal a day, getting into the gym and getting on the treadmill 30 minutes a day, you're going to see benefits. So if that's all you do, if you don't change anything else, you're going to start to see benefits. And then you're going to feel so good. You're going to be like, wow, it actually does work. Like
yeah,
this is true. Like I see it now. It's one thing to understand that. It's one thing, of course, logically, that you can understand that, but to go and experience it for yourself,
yep,
that's what's gonna push you to the next level. And then you're just gonna keep doing that over and over. You're gonna keep finding little things like, whoa, that works. I'm gonna keep doing that. Whoa, that works. I'm gonna keep, and that process never ends. All discovering new little things that work
yep,
will never end. But the funny thing is, you get more and more excited about every little optimization you find. It's like, even though it's actually smaller, like comparatively, like just getting started is the biggest step you'll ever take. That's the most important thing you're ever going to do.
yeah,
But it's going to feel the least rewarding, right? Whereas when you're a year into it and you find a way to, like, oh my God, I found this new low fat cheese at the store. Look at these macro. That's going to actually make you even more excited, even though the actual gain from it is much smaller than when you were first starting.
yeah.
So like the reward builds, even though the progress that you make actually kind of starts to plateau a little bit. But
No, I think
it's really fun
I think
actually
it's
after a
interesting
while.
phenomenon there. Actually, it's an interesting phenomenon because when you start something and you know nothing about that topic, there's always people talk about this little Dunning-Kruger window, and we won't get into that. But there is a window when you do start something and you're like really don't know anything about it, so you kind of were okay with mediocrity on that topic, but you're still making progress on it because the diminishing return effect. But then you're like 6 months in, let's say in your case, you're 5 6 months in, you're starting to you're eating the same things that you ate when you were 350, but you only added that one component of, hey, I'm doing cardio every day. So that's just going to make your total go down. But now you're starting to think, wait,
Right.
it's not working as easy because, hey, I've got less body fat to lose, so it's coming off hard in a slower fashion. How do I make this
Right.
faster? And you stumble on, let's say you stumble on like an Athlean X video or whatever, you stumble on something, and you think, wait a minute, you you could track your calories. What is it? You download MyFitnessPal for the first time. You start going insane on it because you're already in that grind set, if you will, of, hey, what am I going to do
Yeah.
differently to get after it? And then you start really going in and you go to the grocery store, like you said, and you look at the stats on everything, and you're saying, holy, this has this much, this says da 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 da, and this is the da da da, so it
Right.
kind of freaks you out
Right.
when you pick up the box of Pop Tarts and you realize and this was me in a gaining context, when you realize, wait a minute, it's 200 calories per tart. I could throw back 6 packs of these
Yeah.
in one sitting. I mean, if I wanted to, I could. I eat 2 packages of them. Like, who the hell eats two
Yeah.
Pop Tarts?
Little kids, maybe? Yeah, I
Children,
don't
yeah,
know.
children eat two Pop.
No grown man. Yeah, no
Come
grown
on,
man.
2 Pop Tarts?
Yeah.
That's like two eggs. Come on.
Yeah.
So
The most unsatisfying meal of all time. Yeah.
but that adds up. That's 800 calories of 4 Pop Tarts, and you're telling your friend, you're telling your buddy, hey, I'm trying to gain weight, but if you're one of those guys that's below 200 or whatever, and you're telling your friend, I'm trying to gain weight, but I eat a lot of calories every day. How many do you really eat? And the same question is asked if you're trying to lose weight. Man, I'm trying to lose weight. I don't really eat that
Yeah.
much food. I only had this. I didn't even eat. I have breakfast. I skipped it. Well, what'd you have for lunch? Oh, I had breakfast for lunch. What'd you have for breakfast? I had a couple Pop Tarts. That's it. A couple Pop
Yep.
Tarts. Yeah, yeah. How many did you have?
Yeah, a
Four.
couple. Yeah.
4 packages or four
Yeah.
tarts? 8
Yeah.
tarts. Okay, so that's it. That's your daily. That's already more than your daily intake. That's 60.
Yeah.
Where'd that go? It's if people don't.
Right.
That's the fun part is when
Right.
people don't really kind of you creep in. You're like, wait a minute, and then but it's still whatever you did was working. So you just change a little bit of things, and I don't know. It's fun to think about that.
Yeah.
With a lot of dopamine.
Well, that reminds me of one thing. I think the differentiator between if you're going to successfully lock in on anything, no matter what it is your ability not to make those kinds of excuses for yourself, right? Like, because that what that is like the phenomenon you just described. Like, yeah, you'll go to somebody who's quote unquote trying to lose weight, and I swear I'm not going over my calories. I don't eat that much. Blah blah blah. But they're not being serious with themselves,
Yeah.
right? They're not like, because anybody who says that to you is lying. That's a fact. Like, you have to understand one thing about weight loss, but there's other. We're just talking about the weight loss right now in terms of locking in, but there's many other ways to lock in. We're just using this as an example, but the simple fact of reality is that if you're eating less calories than you're burning, you are going to lose weight, guaranteed. There is simply
Really?
no. That's just the laws of physics, right? That's the rules of the universe.
Yeah.
There's no getting
Yeah.
around that, right? Whoever is telling whatever reason, I have a thyroid. Whatever is a lie. It's
The
all a
thyroid.
lie.
I
It's a
love the
lie.
thyroid. That's a fun one.
Yeah, that's the one you hear, right? My metabolism. You're lying. You're lying
Yeah.
to yourself. You're lying
Yeah.
to me, right? But you're lying to yourself first, is what you're doing.
Right.
So the main differentiator between whether you're going to successfully lock in or not is whether you can be serious with yourself and be honest with yourself and not give yourself those kinds of excuses. If you're not seeing results, it's because you're not doing it right. And if you can internalize that, you know you're stepping on the scale week after week and the weight is not
Yeah.
changing. You have to be realistic with yourself and say, okay, I am doing something wrong. I need to analyze my behavior and figure out what it is. I can't just sit here and be like, well, guess that's it. I
No.
guess I'm just stuck. That's
I mean, you
where
can.
you're gonna just fall off.
Right.
Yeah, you
Eh,
can.
You can,
Yeah.
but
But then you're not locked in. You're
you're
not
not.
locked in.
That's
Simple as that.
and then here's the problem. There's a lot of fake. I don't want to say fake natties, but fake locked in people. And I think what the problem is in some cases, it's not even their fault. Like well, it is their fault, but I'm saying they're not doing it. They're not lying to themselves. They're just not informed. And it's something as simple as they're using. They're making let's say they're making their ribeye that they get their one ribeye for every other day, whatever. They're not counting the butter. Hey, do you track the butter?
Yeah.
Do you track the oil? You track the little creamer you put in your coffee? Oh no, I didn't track that. That's
Yep.
what's coffee. You look at the bottle. 75 calories per serving. How many do I have? 3? That
Yeah.
adds up. And people don't track
Yep.
that stuff because they don't think. They just think, oh, I mean, here's my meal. I'm counting this. I'm only at whatever so and so calories, and it's just
Right.
that stuff adds up, and that's really like how people you could sneakily get up to that 500, 600 above your deficit that without even have counted it. And I feel bad for people
Right.
that go on for 2 weeks at a time thinking that they're at some number of calories. Like, nothing's working because those people really believe that they're gaslighting themselves. But the
Yep.
people you're talking
Yep.
about earlier, they're just lying to themselves because it feels good to say it's not my fault. I'm trying. I'm going hard in the
Yeah.
gym because maybe they are. Maybe they are going hard in the gym. I'm going hard in the gym. I have a feeling they're not going hard in the gym though, because if they're able to lie to themselves about how their metabolism is fast or slow or thyroid, I think they're probably going hard at the gym means
Yeah.
that they're going to the gym, and they're going medium. But it's okay, fine. They're going hard at the
Yeah.
gym,
Yeah.
and then they come home and their thyroid hurts or they're so hungry they have to feed themselves. So it's just They just have an emotional day where
Yeah.
they need the cupcake. They need it.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's hard. It's a fine
Yeah,
line.
it's gaslighting yourself is the perfect way to put it. Because yeah, you're only harming yourself. Here's the thing: like nobody can force you to do this. The most important thing you can do, and this is as a man, period, end of story, regardless of any subject, locking in or not,
Yeah,
everything is your fault.
make it. You better
Everything
make
is
it your
your
fault.
fault. Yeah, and it literally just take responsibility for everything. Even if it's something you had, it's not your fault. Like,
Yeah,
even if it's like, you're at work and somebody else screws up, but it's like, in your department or in your area, your purview, make it your responsibility and fix it,
yeah,
right? And if you have that mindset, then the things that really are your fault are actually really easy to deal with. If you're even going so far as to say, I'm going to take responsibility for other people's failures, then your own failures are just like it's easy. It's nothing. It's
yeah.
nothing at all. It's so easy to acknowledge those
I love that.
after that. So
I love
just
that.
it's your fault.
And people start to notice that stuff too. I know it's a kind of a running joke we say that
Yeah.
but people will notice if you're that guy that's making everything his fault. Your coworkers are not going to like you very much, but your boss is going to notice that and say, "Hey, this guy's kind of solving shit without complaining. So let me give him more responsibility, and maybe like
Right.
we'll put him in the back of my mind for later." But I think that's a good time to segue into the questions. We do have some questions we mined from Reddit, some from from some friends and stuff. So we can go over some of these if you want to. I think they're pretty interesting this week.
Yeah.
I got a couple of them. I know you pulled a lot of these. So how about we? Is there anything else you want to try to put a bow on this topic and kind of wrap it up here? Because I know it's become
Uh,
of a dieting episode, and I think that's interesting. So I like that. But anything you want to
yeah.
put a
So
wrap
yeah,
on?
we spent a lot of time talking about dieting. I mean, the purpose of that is just because we both have a lot of immediate experience. You've tried to gain weight and now you're also cutting, but I've tried to lose weight, so that's something we're both really locked into. But in terms of what it means to lock in, the point is that it's the ultimate taking of responsibility, and again, hopefully you've listened to the whole conversation. So right now, what we started by saying is that you need to start. You just need to start, and it doesn't need to be overwhelming because you
Yeah,
just take the first step, and as soon as you start getting the ball rolling, you're gonna build up like a snowball rolling down the hill. You're gonna just get your knowledge is going to build up, your practices are going to get better and more refined, and you're going to get to that point of being like an expert on whatever that subject is. But that is going to take time. It takes time for that ball to roll down the hill. Okay, so you're the ball rolling down the hill. You're just at the very beginning. You're a little pebble. All right. But by the time you get to the bottom, you're going to be this huge boulder. So me and Tony are a good ways down the hill. I mean, we're not that far, but there's people way ahead of us. But we're good ways down the hill. So we have quite a bit of knowledge on this subject. So we talk about it, and it may seem overwhelming because we're talking about going to the store and opening up your macro tracker and getting, checking on the amino acid profiles and all this crap. We're way ahead of you. Don't worry about that. Like just start it. Just get started, and you will build up over time, and that's what locking in truly is.
yeah,
It's just taking it day by day, one little step at a time, and refining yourself as you go. That's all you got to do.
yeah. I want to add something to that real quick too. Get good at locking in without telling anybody. So, in other words, don't
Yeah,
rely
very
on
good.
somebody else's account holding you accountable to lock in. I know that's a crutch that a lot of people use is they tell their roommate, "Hey, I want to lock in. I want to get locked in. I've seen all these lock in TikToks. I want to really get dialed with my diet." And you're like, well, I mean, then you rely on your roommate that you just told, "Hey, he's got to keep me accountable because I just told him I'm going to get all dialed, but he's not." And then you kind of have this situation. So, I think it's better if you just kind of get secretly dialed because it's kind of 6 months
Yep.
a year from later you didn't tell anybody and now boom you're just lean muscular or you're saved up enough money for a down payment on a car or house whatever. It's better that way. It's more rewarding and it allows you to kind of sustain a long 10, 20, 30 year lifestyle of dialing in and locking in because then you don't
Right.
have to rely on anybody. You're just getting after it for your own sake.
Right.
And the second you really convince yourself or the second you start to feel like dopamine or dopaminergic or excited about discussing the ins and outs of your lock-in, but like just with yourself or with somebody else, that's when you know you're on the path. Because it takes a couple months to get there, I think, to feel like okay, this is fun to think about and optimize. But once you can excite yourself about it instead of relying on somebody else, I think you're going to go way farther.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The reward comes from within. That is absolutely true. Don't look for that external validation. That's another thing as a man you got to learn. Don't
Yeah,
look for the external validation. It's got to come from you. It's got to come from you.
and that ties into the questions, I guess. Um,
Perfect.
so we got a question here. It's on Reddit. I don't know which subreddit it might be. Advice. It says my girlfriend claims I game too much. Is she right? That's the top. That's the headline. So I'll go ahead and read this a little bit. My girlfriend, 20 years old, claims that I'm 21 years old male, play video games too much and I'm addicted. I check my hours and I've got a combined total of 5 hours of video games over the past week. My argument to her is that an hour of gaming a day or maybe two every other day isn't ridiculous, and she claims that she can't deal with that for the rest of her life and that's it, and that it's way too much. More context, we're in college, we don't have any kids or anything like that, super long hours at work, and we've been together for a year and a half. What do I do? So,
Yeah. So this one I liked because to me this is very common relationship issue, not necessarily just the video games, but this is the thing, and this is I'm talking to the men. I think probably all of our audience will be men, but
yeah,
if there's any women watching, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say.
yeah,
But women, women are going to be upset anytime they see you happy and slacking off. It doesn't matter. It does not matter how good you're doing in any other aspect of you. It doesn't matter how locked in you are, right? For real. If they see you slacking off and just being a goofball and not being productive and not taking care of business, right? It's going to trigger something in their heads that just upsets them. Period. End of story. I mean, they're just getting upset. It's not a rational thing. Like the question this guy asks is, well, I'm making this argument to her that like, oh, I'm doing everything I need to. And I'm really not gaming all that much. Like, listen, as soon as you step into a woman's frame of argument, you've already lost. You've
yeah,
already lost. There's no winning because it's not a logical question. You're completely correct. 5 hours in 1 week is nothing. That's not bad at all, right? Especially you're a college student, you're not raising a family, and you are working all this stuff, right? That's not a crazy number. Okay, that means you're probably coming home at the end of the day, maybe even a Friday or Saturday. You're racking up 2 to 3 hours of games a day on those days. That's nothing. That's not a big deal. But from her perspective, she's just picking this thing and saying, I want to fight about this,
right.
right? Because that's just kind of the thing women will do. They're just going to pick something and they're going to try to start an argument about it. So your response to this, first of all, I don't think you need to change. I think you're really doing just fine. What you need to address is there's an underlying problem here is what I'm going to go for here. And I frankly think, and I don't know this guy's relationship very well, but just based on my understanding, if she's making this a huge deal, if she's saying I'm going to break up with you over this, she's not going to break up with you over this. It's going to be some underlying thing that
Yeah,
she is not telling you, right? Because this is not a big deal. And if she's a mature woman, I mean, granted, she's only 20 years old, so she's probably not mature. But a mature woman would still do this, but she would not break up with you over it. She would still have that response in her head, but she's either going to be mature enough to work herself through it, or she's going to be mature enough to just like listen to what you're saying and say, okay, yeah, I overreacted about this. What am I really upset about? Like,
right,
what is really going on here?
right.
So that's my thing is
And I think
it's
you put it
something
pretty well.
underlying. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish the underline because I'm curious what you're going to say about
Well,
that.
I was just going to say I think that there's probably something underlying, and if I'm being very cynical,
Yeah,
she just doesn't want to be in a relationship with you anymore.
right,
Like
right.
frankly, I think this is her way of like just breaking it over something stupid.
Yeah,
And you'll see that sometimes. But if you're dating a girl who's very mature and she's just not uh doesn't have the vision that you have, she doesn't really care about staying together with you forever. She's just gonna find a reason. And like in her head it's perfectly rational. And I guarantee you she's talking to all her friends and all her friends are like, "Yeah, what a dork, what a loser, what a lazy idiot. Yeah, you deserve way better than that. You should leave him immediately." Because girls will do that to each other.
right.
They'll just like literally sabotage themselves. And so,
No,
yeah,
and I think I got a couple immediate responses to this guy. First of all, I want to say this: you don't need to lie to us. I'm cool with you lying to your girlfriend about the amount of hours that you have combined, but you don't need to lie to us, dude. There's nobody on this planet that has 5 hours a week that is going to be posting a question like this. So we're probably in the 10, 20 hour range, which again, that's fine. I don't care. But don't lie to us. So that's what number one. I mean, come on, dude. But if you're really at like 10, 15 hours and low number, I can see that. If you're 21, maybe you're in college, maybe you're busy, whatever. Maybe you only got time to play, 10 hours of video games a week. I get that. But what you need to do, I think, is explain a little bit further, or not explain further, but ask yourself this: why is your girlfriend knowing that you're playing 10 hours of video games? Why is she knowing that number of hours? Like, or what does she think? What are you doing to make her think that you are addicted to video games? Okay, so that could be a variety of things. This woman, let's assume that she's attracted to you and that she feels safe and secure around you. I don't think she does because she's making a big deal about allegedly 5 hours of video games, but let's assume she does. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but let's assume she does. What are you not doing? Are you not taking her on dates once every 2 weeks? Are you not going out and doing fun stuff with her like once a week? Are you making it so that every time you spend time with her, you're in a bad mood because you don't want to be around her, so you're not the time isn't actually that fun? So that when she sees you hyped up with the boys on Discord in the Minecraft server, whatever you're doing, you're excited. She gets a little bit like jealous and envious of the times that you guys used to have in the first 2, 3, 4 months. If that's the case, that's kind of the picture I'm painting in my head. Because I agree with Dean, they will make something out of nothing here, and the solution to that is, in my mind, like ignore it if it truly is nothing. But there always is something in nothing. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's kind of like the
Yeah.
everything is everything. The
Yeah.
corollary of that is there's something always in nothing. And so I think if your girlfriend
Right.
is making something out of nothing, which is, hey, you're playing too many video games and you're addicted. What that tells me is there's something there that, hey, something you're doing is making me feel neglected. So now the question is there actually something there, right? So with the 5 hour thing, if you want me to answer this in good faith and you're really playing only 5 hours of video games a week, just like you had a girlfriend in middle school but she went to another school, whatever. I don't buy it, but if it is 5 hours, then there really is nothing there, and this is something where you have to just ignore, 100% ignore it, and just say nothing. Literally say nothing and just continue to play your 5 hours, and there's nothing you can do. But if it's more than 5 hours, I think you need to try to find a way to separate the time with your girlfriend. I mean, you guys are pretty young, so I'm gonna assume you haven't been together that long, maybe a year and a half. You said so. If if you can try to make it so that, hey, we're hanging out, we're going on a date. Let's go to a Ferris wheel. Let's go to the mall and walk around and window shop, do some bullshit that women like doing. Whatever, do that and just make jokes, be in state, be fun, be don't complain, be awesome, be cool, and then drop her off at her where she probably lives with her parents or whatever. Drop her off at her house, go home and play your 5 hours or whatever, or your 1 hour, whatever it is.
A
Because
day.
she's
Yeah.
not gonna note. She's just gonna think, oh, that was such a fun experience. That was such a fun day. And then you're home and you're separated. You're five. Don't play video games in front of her. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, but if you can't
Yeah.
control that, I mean, I don't. Because to me, it's like I'm always separating my own little dopaminergic like a little like my YouTube videos that I watch. I'm not gonna blast a YouTube video about locking in front of her. Like, hey, my wife, hey, look at this dopaminergic video that's cool for me. No, she's got her own little thing going on with her little, whatever she's
Right.
got, her hobbies and stuff. And as long as your wife or girlfriend has hobbies that are not that don't include like other men and stuff, just let her do it, and let her vent to her girlfriends and say, "Hey, my boyfriend this and that and da 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 da." They need that. They need to sabotage themselves because they need to kind of compete with each other and say, "Well, my boyfriend's actually this much of a da 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 da," da and like they want to. So that's actually good for. I know it's ridiculous what they do that, but they need that. So I think I've
Yeah.
kind of summed up a little bit of a strategy for you. I think what you need to do is separate that situation. And also, don't lie to your homies about video games. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like those are the two main points, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you
That's
think
a
about
good
it?
point. Yeah, I did take him at face value there, but you may be right. Yeah, I think that there's a very good chance you're underplaying how much maybe you've had 5 hours in the last 1 week. Well, what about the last month, right? Let's be honest. Like, yeah,
Yep.
you probably are gaming more than you're saying, and yeah, I think I didn't really give you any advice in terms of what to do. So I think Tony, I would just kind of echo what Tony said. Now, the only thing I may add to that is like when it comes to women, they're always going to want to see the worst thing you can do. The only thing you cannot do is be boring, right? Don't be stale. Don't be too stagnant. You got to look like you got motion, right? And it's ridiculous because not everybody needs to be in motion all the freaking time, but you got to look like you are, right? You got to at least give the impression that you're a guy who can make stuff happen, who is making stuff happen.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be honest with you, like I'll be a little shadow realm here. Let's say you are really only playing 5 hours a week. Just lie to her. Start going offline. Get a different Steam account that you're not friends with her on, and just lie to her, right? Like just say, "I know I wasn't playing video games. I was building something. I was I was working outside. I don't know." Just lie to her about it, because it's frankly not it's not something you really need to be concerned about. If that's all you're doing is 5 hours a week, that's not bad. That's okay. That's a perfectly reasonable amount
Yeah.
of time to be playing. And if you're actually taking care of the things you need to be doing, if you're working hard in school, getting good grades, and you're working and you're earning money, that's fine. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. So
Yeah.
that's
See,
the
I'm a
only way
little bit
out of it.
torn on this because part of me wants to say don't play video games, but I think that's a
Yeah.
little bit unrealistic because he's 21, and I think he's in that children range. Like he might be a little bit of a child,
Yeah.
and as we know, video games
Yeah.
are for children. So I think that's fine.
Right.
But I do want to say, what kind of echoing what Dean said earlier, don't argue with her, man. That's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
If anything,
Don't
own
do
it.
that.
Just own it. Just say, hey, I love video games. You
Yeah.
know me. Just own that. Make that part of your personality. And if she's on board, she's on board. If she loves you, bro, she's gonna lean into it and just eventually tell her friends, oh, Jason or Kevin or whatever your name is, he just loves video games. He loves his video games. He loves video. He
Yeah.
loves it. Just own that, bro. And
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
succeeding in every other aspect of the relationship, like, hey, I'm going on dates, like he said, I'm not being boring. I'm big but not boring. That's kind of like the
Yeah.
if you're doing that and you're locking in at school and make sure you're locking in with your career and everything and your fitness and everything. She's just gonna accept that that's part of your package, and
Exactly.
and it's probably a good part. You can flip it to be you can flip almost anything to be a positive. So if you're playing video games, you're doing research, right? Like so maybe that's you're in the Minecraft server figuring out a little bit of
Yeah.
engineering research, whatever. So I mean, just own it.
Yeah.
I think extreme ownership on it. Laugh about it. Don't let her feel like it's an argument because
Right.
she's displaying to you some level of insecurity, weakness, what have you, and vulnerability. I think what she wants and needs, not what she wants, what she needs from you is to eliminate that. And by appearing, it's like when you have a child, like a toddler, and they fall, but they're not actually hurt. They look around, they like look at you, they look at dad and mom and say,
Yeah.
and if you just stone cold, like, stoic, they're going to be, okay, I'm okay, I'm fine. And that's,
Yep.
but if you go,
Yeah.
they're gonna. So that's the, and I'm getting to that soon. I'll be in that life soon. But my
Yeah.
point, my
Yeah.
point is, it's the girlfriend. I'm not gonna say she is a baby, but she's gonna act in some ways analogous to the situation. So if you're doing
Yeah.
5 hours of video games, she goes, but you're playing video. You're addicted. I can't, I can't take it. As you
Yeah.
said, I can't deal with this for the rest of my life. Well, you gotta be stoic. Be stoic and say, hey,
Right.
you know me. I love video games. Just say that. Like with that, if you can have that atmosphere, then she's going, well, I guess it's not. She'll make her own rationalization in her own head. She'll like, I guess it's not that bad. It could be worse. It could be like Kayla's boyfriend
Exactly.
who
Yeah. Yeah.
pretends to be a live streamer and plays 24 hours a day, and he only claims to play
Right.
25 hours. Whatever. So just stoically lock in and just own it. And I think honestly, bro, like at 21, you got to have a girl that's okay with all your shit, all your habits, if you will. And video games, if that's one of them, bro, like just own it. Just own it.
Yep.
So,
That's
yeah.
a good point. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to that. I
Perfect.
think you
Perfect.
nailed it. Yep.
Well, I think the highlight of today I'm looking forward to is this other question about the V word, and I think I'll let you, if you
Okay,
have that
yeah.
question, I'll let you pull that one up and kind of summarize it because I'm excited to talk
Yeah,
about this one.
This is a good one. All right, so I'm gonna paraphrase this because it is very long. But we could maybe put the text up or something if you
Yeah.
want to read through it all. You can, but
We'll put a link in the description.
yeah. In fact, I'll be honest with you. I'm not even gonna read it all. I'm just gonna summarize it for you guys. So we got a gentleman here. He is 23. His ex-girlfriend is 22. They broke up. They were dating for 3 years. And during those 3 years, she expressed a desire to remain a virgin until marriage. Very virtuous, God bless. That's great. And then they broke up. And within a few months, they got back together. But he finds out that during their breakup, she went and had a little fling with some other guy and had sex with him. Right. So she lost her virginity during those few months. And now the guy's obviously coming to Reddit saying, oh my God, like for 3 years, she wouldn't do that with me because she said it was so important to her. And then she just goes and throws it away on this other guy. And like, I just don't know what to do. How do I feel about this? Should I take her back? Am I supposed to be okay with this? Just that's the nature of this question. Basically, he's asking Reddit for permission to forgive her for this and get back with her, right? Because you can clearly tell that's
Yeah.
what he wants.
Yeah.
So I'll let you respond since I asked the question. But
Well,
what do
it's
you
funny
say?
because I think you're gonna have a different and better, maybe better perspective on this. I should just stick to the first word I said because that's what I thought. You're gonna have a better perspective on this because you're kind of exploring I guess the Roman Catholic life or maybe the Greek Orthodox life. So I think that angle is gonna be better. So I hate to foreshadow your angle, but for me, I think the angle for me is simple. Don't get back with her. I kind of almost want to just say that, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. Everybody in the world on Reddit is going to tell you, hey, bro, it's okay. Like, that's actually a good thing. Body positivity, now she knows, has she more experience. So when she does it with you, it's gonna feel better. All this bullshit, all these bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking? All these bullshit reasons are gonna
Yeah.
be ways for you to think, oh, maybe I should take her back. But the reason you're asking at all is because you don't want to do it. It's actually because you don't want to take her back. So you're being convinced that you're quote unquote, am I the asshole? I've heard that before. For just saying, hey, you know what? I've got standards. You said you were, this is our situation. We agreed on this. Like, this is how I want a woman to be, like, whatever. And if she's not that, I mean, not only is she not that, she's not that with another guy that wasn't you. So it's kind of like, I mean, for you
Yeah.
personally,
Yeah.
I think I would say, dude, if you're worried about a woman being a virgin, if that's important to you, go to church, lock in, get rid of her, focus on you for about 2 3 years, 2 3 years, and you'll find somebody better. But that's hard truth tier, and I think like the Reddit moderation wouldn't allow that kind of a comment. So that's why you're not going to see that. That's why you're ultimately
Yep.
going to get back with her. So I get that, but I'm not I'm not trying to be like pessimistic, but don't get back with her. Just focus on you, lock in, and just maybe you can keep her in your life as a friend or something if you really want to. But dude, get her out of there, man. I'm just telling you, like, that's my opinion. So we'll get Dean's angle on
Yeah.
this because I'm excited to hear it.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, my answer isn't all that different from yours. I'm just gonna add a few things. So, I agree. Don't get back with her. I mean, this relationship is over. It's dead. It was, frankly, I don't think you should ever go back to anything that's old. I think that almost never works out anyway. So, regardless of whether she had sex with some other guy, the fact that you guys broke up is, leave it at that, right? But now you've got this extra thing that she's done, and this is not by any means a minor thing, right? Like this is a the most gentle way I can put this is that she doesn't even view you as like a man. Like you're not even attractive to her at all. Like maybe you have something that she knows in her heart she should want, right? I'm assuming since she's wanted to remain a virgin until marriage, that she has some sort of religious commitments and principles that she's trying to live by. And God bless her, we all fail. We all fall short, and we all make big mistakes that we hugely regret. And this is going to be one of them. This is one of her mistakes that she's going to regret for the rest of her life, most likely, right? If she's serious about what she's trying to do in her faith. But God forgives. Humans have a much harder time with that, right? She's going to have easy time getting forgiveness from God because He expects us to fail, and He expects us to fail so that He can give us grace. And so she's going to have that from Him. You are a man, and that's all you are, and you got to be serious about that. Are you okay being in a relationship with a woman who would betray you so easily? And I don't even know the circumstances of you breaking up, but I would almost guarantee it, just based on this timeline involved here, that she met this guy while you guys were dating, and she knew of him while you guys were dating, and she had him in mind before you guys ever broke up, right? And I don't know why you broke up, but as soon as you broke up, she went to this guy who she is much more like viscerally attracted to, right? And this is an extremely important thing for women. If women, in order to really love you, need to feel like you are just the most hottest, handsome man in the whole world. That they need to feel that deep inside of them because they need to feel like they're with the best choice they could have possibly gotten, right? And what she's shown here with her actions is that you're not that. You're not that guy. Not to her. It doesn't mean you're not that guy to anybody. I mean, you are. It sounds like you're, well, I don't know. You didn't tell me about your life, but let's just say you've got things dialed in, and let's say you are a good man. Let's say you have a good heart. Let's say you're working hard. You will be that guy to somebody else, to a woman who has a better head on her shoulders, to a woman who's not so immature, who's not so finicky and flaky to do something like this. But this is a massive act of betrayal, right? You've been wronged as badly as a woman can wrong you. This is it, right? And then she didn't cheat on you because you guys broke up, but she may as well have. Like she betrayed not only you but her principles, her most deeply held convictions. She threw out the window
Right.
because she saw some guy who was probably over 6 feet tall and had abs or something, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all it took. That's all it took for this girl to betray you. Now, let's say you take her back. What happens in 5 years when she's in the workplace, right? I'm sure she's in college. She's going to get a degree. What happens in 5 years when her boss is another of these guys who she can't take her eyes off of, who she fantasizes about at night, right? And he makes a move on her, and she's going to betray you again. She's just going to do it again.
Yeah.
Like this, she's shown her character to you. You have to believe it. When people show you who they are, you got to believe it. That's all you can do. So write this girl off. I know it's painful, and it's not that she's beyond salvation. She can make penance for this and make up for it, and hopefully find happiness and stop with this type of behavior. but you have been wronged in a way that you cannot forgive because you won't be able to. It's just not possible to move on from something like that. It's just as hard as you try, that's always going to be in the back of your mind bubbling up.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to cut
I
this
think
one
that's
off.
very well said, and I don't really have anything else to add to that. I think that's kind of a cut and dry situation. And I think the sad part about
Yeah,
this and a meta conversation about this is that without even reading the comments right now, because I saw the post and there was no comments yet, it was like a brand new post, but I'm sure it's blowing up because this is exactly the kind of stuff on Reddit that would blow up. And it's just going to be a
yeah,
lot of people
yeah.
telling you, bro, this and that, and I don't even have to read it, and I don't want to. Honestly, I don't want to read the comments because you're going to be told, hey, dude, people don't want you, virginity or whatever. Like they're not going to think that that stuff. They're going to try to convince you that that stuff's not important. And as soon as you get somebody that doesn't know anything about your situation, really, because you didn't post any information about details, that tries to tell you that your principles are actually not, they don't matter. You got 10, 20, 100 people telling you that. That's not a good thing to hear, man. Because you do have principles, I think,
Right,
on some level, because that's why you made the post. And I think there's nothing wrong with having principles. And it's a good thing. In fact, it's not only
right.
nothing wrong with it, it's something you should kind of strive to have. So just don't let, my best advice is just don't let anybody on that subreddit or whatever convince you of to go against your principles, especially for, especially for
Yeah,
the girl that just already broke up with you for something else. So I don't know.
right.
We could segue into there's a couple more questions. I think one of them is good, but we can also segue into some speed questions, like some stuff I got texted to
Okay.
me, like just some with no information, just a question. So what do you think? You want to go for one more of these Reddit questions, or you want to go for these speed questions?
Let me see if there was either. I know there's two more we had. Let me see if there's any of these that are like burning a hole in my brain here that I want to talk about.
So the GF dump me one is like I kind of read through it. It's more like that guy needs a therapist. That's what he's looking for. There's no question there. But the other
Yeah,
one is interesting if you want to go
yeah,
for that other one we could speak on for sure. That's kind of an interesting one, I think.
yeah. That one might be instructive. I think
All right.
let's cover that one
All right.
quickly.
So we do have one here. It's how do I tell my long-term girlfriend she is letting herself go? And without going into too much detail here, basically that's the question. Basically, this gentleman here's individual saying that she's the person that he wants to have kids with one day, and he dreams of a future where like they're both fit, healthy, etc. And he says, "quote unquote," I hate feeling like I'm criticizing her, and I've struggled with even writing this because I love her deeply. End quote. Quote. But I want to find a way to talk about it to her so that she thinks I care. She knows I care about her without hurting her feelings or whatever, making her feel judged. So to sum up, this guy is asking, how do I tell my girlfriend that she's letting herself go? Weight, health, etc. And a lot to say on this. A lot of people have this issue going through it. So I'll kick it over to you. What is your initial
Yeah.
what is your initial reaction to this?
Oh, yeah. This is a good one because this is something that a lot of us will struggle in America with the food chain and the just the way our food is in the United States. I think many men listening to this will one day experience their wives, especially post childbirth and whatever, putting on weight, like getting out of shape, and it's going to be an issue, and even for the guys themselves, it's going to be a problem. But in terms of a healthy marriage between two people, one of the most important aspects is a mutual attraction, right? You guys got to love each other. You guys got to love being with each other. You guys got to be, I mean, to be crass about it, you guys got to be horny for each other, right? Like it's an important thing that you guys look at each other and then see somebody attractive and beautiful and that you want to be with, because that's what inspires you, especially as a man. That's what inspires everything. I mean, you look at your wife and you see the most beautiful woman in the world, and you want to run through walls for her. You want to move mountains. You want to do everything for her because she's your that's your princess, right? And if she lets herself go, he is. Here's the perspective that I want this guy to have. This is what I would try to share with him. He needs to understand that she is the one betraying the relationship by letting herself get out of shape like this, right? Like she is the one who's doing the damage. It's not you for noticing, right? Like that's downstream. If she wasn't doing that, you wouldn't have a problem, right? And he says this in the post that he's never brought it up before, and he says I always make sure she knows that I find her beautiful. Okay, that's step number one. You're lying. You're lying to her. You're lying to yourself, to yourself, and you're lying to her. You don't find her beautiful. If you found her beautiful, this wouldn't be a question. This wouldn't be a question. You wouldn't even be bringing. You wouldn't be on Ask Men right now trying to figure this out because you would. It'd be like, oh, she's still beautiful. I don't care. Like whatever. You do care, and you're right to care. It's something you should care about. So Number one is stop lying to yourself, and that way you can stop lying to her. The best thing you can do, and if you really love this woman, which I believe you do, the best thing you can do for her is let her know how her actions are affecting you. Right? Like she is no longer attractive in your eyes because she's letting herself go. That does not mean you don't love her. And you have to emphasize this. This is going to be not an easy conversation to have. You have to emphasize, I still love you. And this is why I'm telling you this. Because I don't want to see you let yourself go and then we lose our attraction to each other and we're no longer excited to be together in the bed. We're no longer excited to spend time. I don't look at you with those eyes that I used. And she knows. I'm going to tell you something. She knows. Because I guarantee you don't look at her the way you used to. It's impossible. If you're not attracted to her, when you look at a woman who you're in love with and you think is genuinely beautiful, your eyes light up, right? And she's doing the same thing to you. You know that she looks at you and she thinks you're attractive because she just, the way she stare at you, she'll literally just look at you and just stare at you like you're a statue. And you're doing that to her. If you really do find her beautiful, she knows that you're not doing that anymore. And I promise you, you're not, because you don't find her as beautiful as you used to. And that hurts her. That is painful to her to experience that because she knows what that used to look like and she's not getting it anymore. So the best thing you can do if you truly care about helping her is break through that barrier that you have where if I give her any kind of criticism, if I try to make any kind of correction, then that means I don't love her. That's totally crap.
Right, right.
That's horseshit. That's the type of answers you're going to get on Reddit. That's the Reddit response is, oh, you should love your wife no matter what she looks like. Every woman gets fat, right? That's what they say on if you go through Reddit comments, they're always going to, what happens when a woman gives birth and she puts on 400 pounds because she can't help it? She had a child. She just has no option.
Her
That's a
thyroid is
lie.
messed up
That's a
now
lie.
permanently because of her birth.
Yeah, exactly. We already talked about it. It's a freaking lie. She can get in shape if she wants to. She
Right,
just doesn't want to. She doesn't have the motivation.
right,
It's your job as the man. You're the leader. You're the leader of the relationship. You must take this on your shoulders. You must take this on your shoulders and give her a standard to live up to, right? And it's not unfair because you also have a standard to live up to. You're both living up to the same standard. It's your job to set that down and say, "Listen, honey, I love you. Let's work on this together. I'm going to start taking you to the gym. I'm going to take control of our groceries. I'm going to take control of what we're eating. For a little while, I'm going to start cooking, right? I will take control of the food here so that you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to do it. But I want you to know that I've noticed this problem and it's growing and I don't want it to get out of control. And so I'm going to take it on myself to fix this, but here's what we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Very easy as a man to just take that responsibility and free her from this prison. Free her from that. If you really love her, you have to break her out and she's going to come kicking and screaming. But she's going to love you for it in the end because you stuck by her. You stuck by her. You could have left. A lot of guys would leave. A lot of guys would see this happening and say, screw it, not my responsibility. I'm out. She's no longer hot to me. I'm going to go find a tight little 22-year-old. Easy peasy. He could do that, right? But he's not going to because he loves her. And she's going to see that if
right,
she's honest, if she's mature enough.
right. And I think I do have some different. I'm not different, but some. It's not exactly the same as what you're saying, but it's along the same lines. And I like what you said about how it's actually your job to control this issue. A lot of people won't say that. A lot of people think, hey, I don't want to be irresponsible for her's weight loss journey or whatever, right? And I get that. There is some credit to that angle. There are actually a couple angles you can go with this. And I think if you say that you're now responsible for all of her weight loss journey, you got to actually be, I don't want to say Hitler-esque, but you got to be really like you can't let her slip, right? And because
Yeah.
you're the one that's responsible for it. So if you say, hey, I'm going to take ownership on your diet and your exercise, it's easy for you to do that for yourself because as soon as you stop doing it, you're the one that didn't do it. But it's hard for you to take that on somebody else. I know you're one flesh and everything, but it's still hard because they have free will. So they can easily wake up and say, I don't want to go downstairs and do my 30 minutes on the sitting bike or whatever, and play Clash Royale. They don't. But you can't make them do it literally unless you pick them up and move them, and you're not going to be able to make them do it. So, and they're going to associate you, say, hey, like you got to do it. They're going to associate you with resentment, especially if they don't actually do it. If they do it, they're not going to because they're going to be like 5 minutes in. Oh, I'm so glad my husband convinced me to kind of just get after it. They're not going to if they do it. But if they don't, and you have an argument, don't go away. 5 weeks later, she's just going to associate with you with her mom. And you're not her mom. You're her husband. So, or your boyfriend in this case. So you do have to kind of, in some ways, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but that's kind of what it is. It's the art of the deal. You got to make her think that that's actually her own thing, but you're not gonna. She's not going to do anything unless you make her do it. So it's like a kind of a rock hard place you type situation. So you have
Yeah.
to at some level balance the levers of, hey, I'm gonna make you do this, but you're not gonna think I'm making you do it. So it's a lot of what Dean said. It's, hey, I'm gonna take control of the groceries, but you can kind of say, hey, I think I'll go grocery shopping this week. I know you've been doing it a lot recently, but I've got some good ideas, and maybe you can flip it as a, hey, I've been locking into a lot of cool like research on groceries. I've read some articles and I've kind of been watching some YouTube videos about like shopping at the grocery store. I think we've been doing it wrong. So I'm gonna try kind of experimenting with locking in at the grocery store. Like we'll do like a full day of eating together, and make it your own thing. That's not 100% connected to, hey, you're gaining weight, so I need to do this so that you don't gain weight. Make it, hey, I think we're both eating a little bit unhealthy. I think we both could eat healthier. Here's how we're both going to do it, and I'm going to be in charge of it. Make it like that, and I think it's a lot better than just accusing her and making, obviously she needs to hear that, but yeah, I think it's going to be better that way. And one thing I like to say is, if you are actually getting after it, because you mentioned, hey, I value a healthy lifestyle, you say I don't have a six pack, etc. If you're actually getting after it and she's attracted to you, she kind of will gravitate to whatever it is that you do. I don't know about every woman, but it's almost every woman is going to say, hey, my boyfriend or husband is really into weightlifting, or is really into CrossFit, or is really into cycling, or is really into other forms of cycling, but or is he really if he's really into rock climbing, whatever. Let me try that. And they want to become that. They want to become you. They want to become the man of the relationship. They want to kind of step up and say, hey, let me try to do that as well. They're going to try to get your hobbies. So if you every day, start exercising, they're going to want to join you. And that's fun. Sometimes it's fun to exercise with your wife, and it's some fun to diet with your wife. Get involved with it. It's kind of a vague prescription, but really get involved with it. Get hands-on, and really go try to do this. Try to do a month of, start with a week, but do a month, tailor it's a week, but do it a month. Do a month of you in control of the diet and just going down. And don't even frame it as, hey, you need to lose weight. Just say, hey, let's both kind of join ourselves on this journey. And really, if you show enthusiasm and if you show excitement in that thing, she'll get on board. You're at a month and 2 months and 6 months, and then she's down 15 pounds. She doesn't even know it. She's, hey, what's going on? I've lost 15 pounds. She won't even know that. So just get after it, control the situation, take ownership. I think he's right. And don't read the Cope comments and say, bro, Lizzo ate all these calories and she's awesome. Lizzo's an outlier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of my two
That's
cents
well.
on it.
Let me ask you this. I'll probe you a little bit on that
I like
because
that. I like that.
do you think there's any um, value to having like the conversation? Because I certainly appreciate you have like a more of a softer power type of approach to this, right? And I think that's probably it could be very effective, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it, like you said, many women are just going to want to be involved in your hobbies anyway. So
Yeah.
if you pick up an active hobby, she's going to want to join you. Simple as that. And that's you're right. My only thing is, I could see there still being resistance, especially if, like, I don't know how far along she is, how much she's really let herself go, but let's say she's really resistant to like being healthy, and let's say she's really suffering from this food addiction, and like she sees that you're going cycling and hiking and all this stuff, and she's like, I don't like that. I don't feel because a lot of times when you get into this stagnation and you're struggling with weight, it's laziness. I mean, you're suffering from that laziness. So you kind of hate the idea of physical activity. It doesn't sound interesting to you. You want to go sit down and watch a movie or something. That's your
Yeah.
idea of a good time.
Yeah.
So like, what if she is exhibiting a lot of resistance to stuff like that? At that point, would you start like a conversation, or how would you
Yeah,
approach that?
and I appreciate the probe, but let me ask a kind of an analyzing question of the conversation of the situation. This guy is in a long-term relationship, girlfriend. He said girlfriend, so it's a little bit different than if it's married, kids, etc. Since it's girlfriend, reason I'm encouraging what I'm encouraging is this guy. Let's be honest. I didn't want to go there because it's dark, but this guy is set up right now in a perfect position to get after it, get himself after it, and if she's not on board, you know, it might end. And the reason I say that is because I know a lot of people who have started to say, "Hey, I'm on a journey of my own, fitness wise, with a girlfriend, not wife. There's girlfriend, not fiance, not wife," and she is holding me back. She's sitting there She's the
Yeah.
one that's buying the Twinkies. She's the one that's saying, "I don't like that you go to the gym because it's an hour away from me, and I need to suck all of your energy and resource." There's girls like that, right? And if she's one of those girls, he needs to know that because he's talking about being married to her and
Yeah.
stuff. You can't really make that work long term with a girl that's like that. That's going to be, hey, I'm going
Yeah.
to drain all the positivity out of your, not in a good way, you know, but I'm going to drain all your mindset out of you. And it's. I know you can relate to this because we're thinking of somebody, we both, a mutual friend of ours that's dated this girl for a long time, lived together. They both kind of let their bodies get out of control. As soon as he started to kind of get off and go after it, she was on board mentally, but vocally, but not really on board. And it kind of was more of a,
Yeah.
okay, now you getting after it is now going to cause you to kind of have abundance, and we can get into that in a different episode. But other girls start to notice that, and she starts to notice the other girls start to notice it. So you can really test somebody and see how they react to that moment. It's either going to be a type A person who's saying, "Hey, other girls want my man, so I need to get myself in gear," and they do, or it's, well, other girls want my man, so I need to go on Reddit and complain about it and have them validate my shit, and then like we're just gonna
Yeah.
break up. I don't care. Fine, I don't need
Yeah.
him. Reality is they need you, right? So once they break up with you,
Yeah.
it's gonna be you get back together, they break up again, you get back together, but she's got the wrong voices, right? She's hearing the wrong people in her ear, and it's sort of like a
Yeah.
Trump 2016 situation. But these people need to be told. This guy here, the reason I kind of was subliminal about it, and you're right, I'll be straightforward. You need to get after it, dude. And if she doesn't want to be, if she's that type B, you got time, man. You got time to find somebody else.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that she's type A. I'm hoping that this problem is not something that has been festering for 10 years. Hoping that's a 2-year thing, and you don't have to be her dad. Because if you have a son or daughter, different question. Hey, your son, no, don't try to manipulate him. Just make him do it. Your daughter, hey, a little bit, tiny bit of manipulation, but make her do it. But it's your wife, dude. So, or girlfriend. But if it's your wife, my point is, it's a completely different thing because you're stuck with that situation, and not in a bad way. Like, they're committed to that. So if you're committed to that, yes, the conversation needs to be had in a way that's, hey, you're not getting after it. When you get after it,
Yeah.
I get after it. When we both get after it, we're both locked in. We're both doing better in work. We're both doing better in life with the kids. Everything's better. So let's just stop. Let's be better about it. That's wife tier, though, right? You're our one flesh. But you said girlfriend, so I'm kind of trying to be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because my answer was more geared towards like a very permanent relation. I'm thinking of a husband and wife,
Yeah,
right? Like, so I'm thinking you're locked in with this woman. The word of the day, you're
yeah,
locked in. So that was my perspective. But you're 100% right. This is a you guys are very young. You are still just dating. And because I sympathize with this guy because I see a lot of what he says. I love her so much, and I believe that he does. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure he does, right?
yeah.
And the thought of leaving her over this, it doesn't feel good. That's
No, don't leave her. Don't
very
leave her.
ugly. Well, not no, but eventually it may come to that, like you just said. I mean,
Yeah,
it may be that she's very resistant to change, and if that's the case, she's just going to
and
drag you down, and you have to leave her at
yeah,
that point, right? You
yeah,
have to. So I'm thinking of it in the terms of like, how could you possibly say if you say this is my wife and this is the woman I want for the rest of my life,
yeah.
how can I make this work? That's sort of my perspective, but I think what you're saying is also true. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be that. It may be that you need to sort of be much more realistic about this relationship and be much more
Sure.
realistic about this woman, right? If you can live with her being obese, great,
Yeah,
cool, go ahead.
yeah.
But if you can't, then there's a real possibility that you need to start thinking of how you're going to end this, right? If it comes to that, if it comes, not that
Right.
you're going to give up right away, but
And,
realistically, that is a
and
possibility.
again, this
So,
is a little hack I'm going to give you. If you're married, and let's say you're 10 years into the marriage, and I'm not 10 years into my marriage, so obviously you may think, oh, I can't give the advice, but I'm smarter than you probably, so I can say, if you're married for 10 years with this, uh, it's a different question than if you're vetting her, because I want you to filter this woman out of your life if need be, and I hope you don't. I hope that she's the type A person that says, hey, I'm gonna get after it with you. Like, I like that, but I don't want her to come to this inorganically and say, oh, I need to because my boyfriend or says I have to. I have to. I want her to come and say to herself, oh, my boyfriend's really looking good. He's really trying to get positivity, like trying to get motivated. I feel like that's fun. I want
yeah,
to, and that then you effectively filtered somebody out that you don't want to be long term. This is a vetting process, right? But married 10 years, you start getting you got to creative with it. And one thing is, women like to appeal to
yeah,
credentials. So you could do something. Let's say you're married 10 years, and you don't want to be like the first thing in the whole journey of let me get my wife to lose weight. It doesn't have to be, hey, you're overweight, it's not attractive to me. That could be step five. If step 1 through 4 doesn't work,
Yeah.
step one could be something like step two could be, hey, you pay your let's go, you write a check to your, or give some cash to your local doctor or whatever, your family doctor. Hey, can you tell my wife she's fat? Just say that, and then you bring her
Yeah.
in, and it's kind of creative because they have this appeal to credentials. So they say, oh, Dr. Finkelstein, what's wrong? Yeah, listen, Marie, elephant in the room, and you know.
Her name is Marie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and that's
Yeah.
and she, oh my goodness, and then the fear, everything kicks in, and that's
Yeah.
and that's getting creative with it, right? You can't be 10 years
Yeah.
married and 20 years married and think it's going to all work like week one, week two, maybe in some ways, but in this little situation, things have been developing for 10, 15, 30 years, and you're thinking, okay, I can't
Right.
break these barriers down because they're not going to want it. They're going to open up poker, like video poker, and just eat the Twinkies, right? But if Dr. Finkelstein says, oh my gosh, then for a month, two, you got that whole card you could play. Hey, Dr. Finkelstein said this, Dr. Finkelstein said, but hey, doctor's orders.
Yeah.
And she's going to be afraid of that stuff. And I don't think that's a good way to go about it because that's kind of undercutting like what she should be. She should view you as authority, but there's a little bit of layers to kind of what you can get, what you want to pick your battles, etc. But I think this one is kind of clear cut.
Yeah.
Not clear cut, but it's been answered. It's been discussed. I think
Yeah. No, I think I'm happy with that discussion. That was pretty useful. So good answer.
it is a good question though, right? It is one of those interesting
Yeah.
questions because
Yeah.
it brings a lot of. Do I want my girlfriend to view me as a father, or do I want my girlfriend to view me as a stoic husband and leader of the house? There's some overlap. There's definitely some overlap, but your girlfriend's father, if it's a good relationship, she's afraid of him in some ways, right? And like she doesn't want to have him nagging her all the time. You're different. Like you're providing her with some similar stuff there, but not exactly the same, and you're never going to be able to fill that role. So it's kind of, or could you? That's why it's an interesting question, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I think it's as I was saying at the beginning of my answer is like this is something that's going to affect. It's already affecting men across this country, right? I mean, this country in particular, where we have such a big problem with obesity, and our women especially are just so fat. All of our women are just so goddamn fat, dude. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so there's a million men across this country who are dealing with this exact problem, and they're way into it. They've been married, they've got kids, they got a whole family. Leaving is not an option, but they've got a wife they're not attracted to anymore because she's just freaking fat, and that's so toxic to a marriage. I mean, it's so especially because the simple fact is that men, as they get older, are still attractive. Men in
Yeah.
their 40s are still attractive, right? It's simple
Yeah.
as that. Women in their 40s, especially if they're fat, you kidding me? So, like as a man in your 40s, if you're taking care of business, you're handsome, you're in shape, you're gonna have attention, you're gonna have options, you're gonna be tempted all the time by beautiful women who see that you're married and see that you're stable, and they like that. They're very attracted to it. And if you don't have that stability at home, is like, hey, I appreciate the attention, but I've got my queen at home, perfect 10 out of 10 in my eyes, and I'll never stray from her, right? That's what you need to have that. Like you realistically, as a man, no man is strong enough. I'll be honest with you, no man is strong enough to resist all those temptations all the time, right?
Yeah.
Unless you know that you have something waiting for you at home that you already consider perfect, and you
Right.
never would want to ruin that, right?
Right.
So,
And
it's
there are
very
periods of
important.
time where you have to practice, discipline, abstinence, etc. Because like, yeah, your wife's gonna get pregnant, etc. Like your wife's gonna have like, she's not gonna look the same day as day one ever, almost ever. She looks the most beautiful she'll ever look
Right.
on the wedding day, probably, or maybe in some cases even earlier. But it's about like how much are you okay with, you know, at that certain point. And if you want the marriage to succeed, you got to be attracted to her, right? But I think when you're 60, 70, 80 years old, completely different situation. Like you don't need to be attracted to your wife at age 80. Maybe I'll get flack from Biden on that, but I think you don't need to be. And if you are, that's a
Yeah.
bonus. But if you're 50 years old and you're 10 years married, 20 years married, and your wife is just out of control, it's not only a bad reflection on your marriage, but maybe your kids are now having a bad role model to say, hey, maybe I can get like Lizzo, or sorry, like my mom, and I can get a little bit bigger. That's fine. No, I mean you got to really
Yeah.
lock in. So it's a big epidemic here. So get after it, get locked in, but also start to view things. It's all connected. Everything's everything. So it's all connected from the top of the
Yeah.
episode. Start to view things like ice cream as not food. You start thinking about that as almost like you pick up a piece of plastic. You're not thinking that, oh, that's food. Think of ice cream as the same thing as that. Think of, Twinkies, same thing as that. Like all that stuff is almost cheese in some way. Like certain things that like aren't food. Just think of ice cream as that and change the way you view life. And I don't know. Your wife,
Yeah.
obviously, you can't transport your mindset to her, but you can kind of try. So try, talk to her, etc. Do everything you can. But I
Yeah.
appreciate your question because you are. It tells me that you are somebody who is really looking long term and trying to get after it. So I would like to you to kind
Yeah.
of. I would like to follow up with him and see in a couple weeks or months what's going on with him.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I think that covers it today. It was a pretty good discussion. We had a lot of cool questions, and yeah, I think if you guys want to jump into some more questions, you can always send us an email. We're going to throw the email up. It's mnvr um, life@gmail.com. So just send us an email or comment. We'll go through some of the comments and stuff too. So yeah, we're happy to go over anything. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. I don't have anything else to add.
yeah.
That was
All right,
great.
guys, stay locked in, get
Thanks for
locked in,
watching.
and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Absolutely. God bless.